Alison, would you mind to read the chapter 6 loud?
Yep. The spirit of the valley never dies. It is called the profound female. The gateway of the profound female is called the root of heaven and earth. Continuously, it seems to last, useful but never overworked.
Any comments?
I just saw a tension in the commentary tradition on this, where the word for spirit, shun, is sometimes understood as a sort of principle of change, principle of movement. But then other scholars want to see the whole of chapter 6 as describing the eternal Tao, the Chang Tao. And that seems like, I mean, maybe there's no contradiction there, but it just seems like there's some kind of tension that has to be explained if we're understanding this both as a description of the eternal Tao and as a description of a spirit of the valley, something that always changes. I guess I could form that more as a series of questions, but yeah, basically I'm interested in how we understand this spirit of the valley never dying.
Yeah. Any response to this? But I'm really interested in this question. I want to have a look at how the Laozi uses this word shen. Basically, this word, if like the Chinese, for the Chinese ears, it means God, or like something like here. You can also translate in spirit. Yeah, but I never think of that for a lot here. I just read that directly here about the spirit. And does everybody read the commentary in this book of Charles?
Yeah, I read the commentary, but I don't know whether that's qualified me to understand it any better.
So if do we need to read it loud or not?
Well, I could do. I mean, like it's very short, and it like the focus here is quite clear because it's been mentioned the female focus like before. Yeah, you mentioned last week, didn't you?
Yes.
So I don't mind reading it if you if you want me to. So yeah, for the first time in the present order of Tao Te Ching, Laozi invokes the spirit of the valley and equates it with the profound female. Like the empty vessel in chapter 4, the valley remains vacuous and never gets filled to the brim, a great symbol of humble service. Laozi is fascinated by the infinite capacity of the deep, the dark, the empty, the concave. He observes this capacity in the empty vessel, the center of the bellows, the spirit of the valley, and above all else, the mysterious depth of the female organs. The mention of the last item is particularly significant because, unlike the prudish Confucius, who shies away from any subject involving sex, Laozi has no qualms addressing whatever nature has to offer for his contemplation. His analogy of female anatomy, reflecting his profound respect for the female, is closely embedded in his perception of Tao as the mother of all things. We will see more analogies of the valley as well as the female organs as we progress.
Any comments? I just heard when the Laozi was first translated into Western language, this passage was very famous.
All right.
Yeah. And I can also read another comments. It's from Western authors. So it's just a little bit more straightforward. In chapters 4 and 5, we have the Taoist celebration of the fecundity of emptiness, the undetermined nature of experience, like a self-empty flask or a pair of bellows, makes it inexhaustibly productive. In this chapter and pervasively in the text, the image of the dark, moist, and accommodatingly vacant interior of the vagina is used as an analogy for this fertility. Yeah. Okay. So, any comments or question?
Well, when it said, oh, so I'm just going to ask a question.
Yeah.
Like when it says like the fourth line is called the root of heaven and earth. Is that, I mean, like you mentioned fecundity. Is this to do the idea then that it's a female organs giving birth to heaven and earth, or is am I reading too much into that? So yeah, it's definitely in Chinese. It's Digun, isn't it? It's like the root of earth, heaven and earth. Yeah, Tian Digun. Yeah, but I don't know if behind that there's an idea of giving birth to heaven and earth or something like this. I mean, what does he mean by the root anyway?
It's a very good question. Any response?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have an answer to the question, but I was also curious about this word root, because earlier we have talk of the origin of heaven and earth. I think that's just in the first chapter, and I was wondering if these are to be equated, the root and the origin.
Yeah, I don't know what the Chinese was before.
There is the first chapter is mother, right? And it's a gateway of all mysteries, I think, to stuff.
Okay.
We see a lot of parallels. The first is mother, and the second is gate. So
that's here as well, isn't it? Jiman in the third line.
in the first chapter, you mean?
No, in chapter 6. It's
okay, yeah.
It's on the third line as well.
Yeah, exactly. So I think the root of it can means that heaven, and it could mean that really that heaven and earth could also born by a heavenly profound female or something like that, maybe. Or the Laozi just want to say like this emptiness, or this as they has vacant, or maybe the like or even non-being, rather the root of earth and heaven. Maybe it's just a picture right here. So any further comments? No, then we go to 7, right?
Sounds good.
Yeah. Alison, would you like to read it?
Okay. So here we are. Heaven lives long and earth is lasting. The reason why heaven and earth are long-lasting is that they do not will their own existence. That is why they live long. Thus, the sage puts himself in the rear and yet ends up in front. He places himself on the outside and yet remains present. Isn't it because he is selfless that he is able to fulfill himself?
Any question?
Yeah, I mean, I had a lot of questions on this passage. This idea of not willing one's own existence. Curious, yeah, how everyone understood that. I mean, the Chinese, as far as I can tell, is much more ambiguous. Just this like 不自生, like not its own birth or something like this, or not its own life.
不自生 you
Yeah, so
mean? 不
yeah,
自生
yeah.
It's definitely a very interesting philosophical concept, right? 自生.
Yeah.
Basically means 自 is self, right?
Yeah.
生 is birth,
Yeah.
so 自生 is kind of like you give birth to yourself.
Yeah. And there's nothing to
So
do with will there then, really.
maybe the different translation is like here I have 2 or 3. The one is that they do not will their own existence. It's this one. And the other one is because it does not live for itself, thus it is able to be long-lived. And I also have one here. Endure and heaven and earth are able to endure and continue thus long is because they do not live of or for themselves.
Because can the sheng also be interpreted as life as well then, like shenghuo? Or
Oh, you mean
I'm
I
just
say
wondering why they mention like they don't live for themselves. That's why I was asking it, because obviously sheng obviously it's to do with birth, but it's also exists in shenghuo, the word for life as well. Yeah. So I was just wondering.
Exactly. Yeah, a very good comment, Alison. Thanks. So
Sorry,
here,
I'm just looking into the language all the time because
so here it cannot also mean leave. I think one of the Chinese, the Lord of the River, right? Also, in the commentators say here's something like that. So why the heaven and earth can live so long? It's because they are quiet. They just give, but does not require other to return to them. And they are different from people who always ask something for self-interest and even rob or get something from others in order to give it to themselves. So basically here is the 自生 is interpreted as like motivation of self-interest. As you said, that is in human life, right? Not in human birth, but in human life.
I wonder if it's not also making reference back to chapter 2, where we're told that existence and non-existence give birth one to the other. This like xiang shang, like yeah, like it seems like zhi shang and yeah, xiang shang are sort of like contrastive concepts, sort of like generating oneself versus like reciprocal generation.
Yes.
I don't know if that means that like heaven and earth here are reciprocally generative, like being and non-being, but
I think for the chapter 2, what Scala is referring to is being and non-being generate one another. So this the xiang sheng or the sheng there can also means generate or give birth to, but also can also mean they exist or live, right? Depending on
each other, yeah.
each other, right? So both also the both the two ways of interpretation can work there. Could work.
Because the commentary on chapter 6 here, it says they do not will their existence, they do not try to make their long-lasting existence happen, they just be. So it's like, yeah, the commentary on the one that we're using, yeah, just the first 2 lines there, you know, so it's yeah, it's like there's nothing forced about this, but then it throws up the question, yeah, does he have any explanation as to how they came into being then? Yeah, I mean, is there like I don't know whether we've followed that there's any kind of creation story here going on, but like he's saying, heaven and earth just they last a long time because they just are.
Also, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, I hadn't really got anything more to say.
Okay, so I think it's also a very good point, Edison. Then you hear you interpret it as a slightly different direction. I think it can also work. Like, so nothing. It's just there, right? And there's no creation theory or there, like we talked about a soul last time. So Plato has in Phaedrus argument for the immortality of the soul. He said something which is not being moved, or the soul cannot have a beginning and an end. I think it's basically a similar argument here as to your understanding. So the word has also always been there.
Yeah.
Nobody or nothing created them. Because they don't have like a beginning or an end, so they can live forever, right? Maybe. But in this interpretation, a little bit difficult is that self, right? Self is there. It's not something like them. Maybe because they do not created or generated by others, so that's why they live long. They would be like that. But here slightly difficult to go back to the original text, I think. Any response? Has any response or comments? No? Then what's the other question? Scott, you have other question.
Yeah, I don't know. I find this one tricky. I mean, yeah, just as to this sort of like second section of this chapter. I'm interested in the idea of it's called it's translated as a self in this version, but this word shan, which could be like body or something like this, or person. And then I'm also interested in, I guess in Wu's translation, it's not super visible, but this idea of like private things. The word is like the last two lines, I think more literally are like, isn't it because he doesn't have private things that his private things are achieved? Yeah, the C-text translation has it, is it not because he has no personal and private ends, that therefore such ends are realized? And I was curious about how to understand personal and private ends, because, you know, if you take it as meaning the same thing in both parts of this conditional, then it's like straightforwardly paradoxical. And so I was wondering if you have to understand personal and private ends differently in both cases. Like he doesn't have any of the common personal and private ends, which is why his personal and private ends, which are like sagely and wise and philosophical, are achieved, or something like this. But...
I think you kind of ask what's how to understand the word 思 in the last character, right? How to interpret that?
Yeah, in the last two lines, it comes up twice. Yeah.
Yeah. So 思 is just usually I think we usually use that like 公 and 私 公 is a publicity or something like shared by others. 私 is rather like property or something like that.
Okay.
And was your ego or something between belongs to you. I think property, right? I think basically that, and interesting, the Chinese character has two parts. One is the how to say that, the plant of rice. How to say that in English?
Oh yeah, stalk, a stalk.
Stalk, yes. A hand have the stalk like this. It's yeah. So basically, just like okay, it's mine, and it's the stalks or like this stuff. Yeah. And second, and you ask something like so basically I would say here we are also work the general understanding of like property or someone's like or self-interest or something like that would work. And so what's the further questions, because I think you have several layers, right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, just to like put the question more pointedly on the last two lines, is it like is that it seems kind of paradoxical to me, or I mean, it seems like that's the intent, the intended effect of the last two lines is to you know, seem paradoxical, and so I think that's asking us to do some extra conceptual work and try to understand exactly what is meant by, you know, selflessness leading to self-fulfillment.
Yeah. So you basically say in the end it's aimed at self-fulfillment, right? So it's a big or big self, right?
Yeah,
Or
or if the of the sage person is just fundamentally different from like what I don't know, what we normally think of.
Yeah, or you then in this way, then you suggest like because here isn't because he's selfless that he's able to fulfill self. So you suggest those two selves must be interpreted differently. So the second one we can interpret like some selfness of the sage, right? And then we give the slightly different connotation or meanings, so it can get out of this obvious contradictory. Yeah, what's that? Contradiction. Yeah, contradiction. Yeah, is that
Yeah,
what you mean?
thanks. Yeah, that's a clearer formulation of what I was trying to say. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly, and also very parallel to the heap of merit, right? Like
Yeah.
he's a Heart Sutra or Dear Diamond Sutra.
I'm wondering, is that the way to like resolve the contradiction of like saying that there are two different types of sort of self here? Or is it maybe that it's like how I imagine happiness, where you can't really pursue happiness, but then the person that does something else somehow gets happiness. So it's like you can't, maybe it's something to do with action. You can't pursue your selfish goals, and by not doing so, then you get those goals somehow.
Mm. Mm.
Because then it
So,
would like cohere with the notion of like wu wei, like this effortless non-action thing.
yeah. I think what you said is like, I think you know this maybe. 有心栽花花不发，无心插柳柳成荫. Have you ever heard that? No? That means you just want some flower and then you buy a big pot and bought everything, but after 2 years there's no flowers come out, right? But another day you just find one small like some axe or something like in German. What's that? A part of the a plant, and then you throw it into your garden, and after 2 years it grows to a huge tree. So, like so you kind of like critique on something like uh, artificial intentions or general intentions in general. So if you really aimed at something, like you just try to concentrate or lead yourself to some goals or something, and make that consciousness or aware that, and let that occupy your whole day and whole life. We put it to extreme. Maybe in the end you didn't get it at all, right? So sometimes you just let it to be naturally, or even so in that and that direction, and you will get it. I think it's a very usual interpretation in China, also kind of like part of the culture, I would say, this interpretation. Then
Yeah, I guess it seems like the difference between the two interpretations hinges on whether we think Lao Tzu is like has like conventional ethics or like conventional values. Because it seems like maybe in your reading is saying he's not trying to sort of undermine traditional values or undermine the private ends that one has. He's just trying to show the correct way to get to that end. Which, I mean, it sounds like that when he's talking about rulers a lot, that it's not like he wants some kind of revolutionary redistributive system, but he just wants the ruler to put things in order in the correct way.
Yeah.
But I wonder
But
would
yeah,
he sort of, yeah, sorry.
No, sorry, that was just like mumbling.
I was wondering if he would agree to this like sort of like characterization of values, because to me it seems like he would not even say that he has necessarily any values that can be clearly formulated or that are like rational kind of values, because his drive always seems to me is like, even to the rulers, is to make them act by not acting. So it always is something like there are some sort of values, but it's not like something you can say that you want order or you want peace. It's more like you just have to sort of like follow the Tao, and then you get the valuable thing. But it's not really anything concrete, I feel.
Mm.
So like I think he would have like certain qualms against like traditional values, because I think that he would take them to be some sort of rational formulation of something that shouldn't be formulated.
I think, Aiden, your interpretation is like more metaphysically, so of the Tao itself, right? So the use or the aims or the goals are kind of like side effect of the Tao, right? So the most important stuff is to follow the Tao, right? But he just happened to mention those side effects, kind of like that, right? Can I put it that way? But for the like on the first place, it's Tao itself, right? To follow in the Tao. So
Like I don't know if there's side effects so much as they are part of the Tao. It's just that they're not anything very concrete. It's like, so I feel like he is still aiming for this sort of like social good of order and peace, but I don't think he would necessarily like frame them in terms of values, because like values seem to me something more concrete. Like you can say, I want to pursue something beautiful or something, I don't know, or like riches or whatever, and that seems kind of concrete to me. But also, like in the previous chapter, he was saying like don't postulate something as beautiful, because then you have the ugly, or don't postulate like people who have talent, because then you have the people who don't have talent, kind of thing.
And in fact, then what you say is aligned with the first chapter, right? Just basically means names may be cited as names, but they are not the eternal name. So those values, if you give them names or give them something like this, then it will be kind of fixed, and then Laozi kind of against those stuff. So he's against then like self or property or something like that, right?
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Okay. And any other questions still? Or response to what have been said now? So I also have one question. It's basically like, can we, here we have basically two passages, right? And divided by thus. I feel that from the first passage, we cannot thus. That's the second passage.
But you're supposed to.
But isn't there a kind of a connection? Because in the job part, it tells us heaven on earth are long lasting because they don't will their own existence. They don't force things. They just are. And at the bottom part, it's like similar. Also in the commentary, like he's not the sage is not really pursuing his self interests. He just finds himself well fulfilled. So it's basically there's an analogy. It's a similar phrasing of things. Or am I mistaken?
So basically, like the first part is nature, right?
Yeah.
And the second part is human action.
Refers to the human mind and human action.
Human mind and human action.
Because
So-
self-interest is more of a mind thing than an action. It can lead to actions, but I think here the thoughts are first.
So where do you have the like the how to say it,
In the
evidence
second-
of the mind?
No, if you look at the commentary, by the same
okay.
token, because he does not pursue his self-interest, so things like interest have to do something with the mind first and then with action. So it's more like a mind thing. That's why I came through the mind. And also you mentioned the ego before. Like if you want things, you place yourself in the front of stuff, always saying me and stuff. So that thing leads to nothing, according to the text. Or
what I mean is like maybe Laozi want us as human to be the same as a stone, say, or right? That's can we thus that so thus you should be like a stone.
Or maybe
That's-
as an animal in the forest, they just are.
Like an animal in the forest, that they also belong to the nature, right? You are right.
Yeah, because they are moving, because life, everything is moving, especially in Taoism. Everything is liquid and moving and always changing. And even though rocks change in a very, very long time, I think animals are a bit more closer to home.
We can try. So as animals, I think that's a great idea. So thus the tiger puts himself in the rear and yet ends up in front.
I mean, many of those hunting animals, they just stay in place and wait what comes along and not just running like, oh, there's a deer, I have to go to the deer. Just like they wait and at a certain spot and inch themselves closer and closer, but not so more on a hidden, more in a softer way.
Okay.
Or
I
I
think
don't
that
know,
makes
maybe
sense, yeah.
tigers are not the best example, but I don't know. But it's more like just following your own nature without forcing things to happen. I don't know. It's just, I know, sometimes it's weird.
Yeah, that's quite, I was just thinking that's quite a deep question about your own nature, because I'm not sure if like it isn't the reverse in a way. Like isn't it, if you say like if you take the idea of following your own instincts, yeah, and human nature, yeah, probably we wouldn't be in such a good place. I mean, I don't know whether what he recommends in the second part of this text is really like how humans would naturally behave, or would
That's
naturally,
exactly the question, right? What does that mean?
Or would naturally think,
what's human naturally are, and so because it's rather simple, say the heaven and earth, how the heaven and earth naturally are, but it's really difficult to say how the human beings naturally are. And here, Laozi seems to suggest that the human nature should be follow the heaven and earth, the nature like that way, because they are all belong to Tao. I think that's maybe what Laozi is saying. So thus, because kicking thus, because overarchingly there's Tao, right? Maybe. between human and or over human and heaven, earth?
I don't know if we necessarily need to understand nature as this sort of like follow your natural drives or your base like biological instincts, because it seems to me what's more central here is the line of like placing yourself outside of your body, or like when he talks about heaven, he said 不自生, so you don't live for yourself or you don't generate yourself. So it seems to me like what he's saying is that the point is not to sort of stay in your own intentionality or your own like you want a certain thing. Instead, you have to sort of place yourself outside of yourself in a way.
Mm.
And I'm not sure what that entails, but it seems to me that's the central thing, because like you place yourself in the rear and you end up in the front. You place yourself on the outside, but then you are present. So like that's to me, like that's the idea, instead of saying follow your natural instincts, because that would still entail that you are still within yourself and pursuing like selfish goals.
Mm. Any response? I think that.
I'm just wondering if that was the opposite then. What if we were within ourselves and we followed our instincts? Yeah. Like, otherwise, why is he writing that we should do this and be like the heaven and earth? Because if we were naturally like that, then he wouldn't need to write it. To point it out.
That's really a critique on Laozi. So
Yeah.
why you write this book? That's really.
Well, I wasn't trying to criticize him. I was just trying to say, like, I mean, if it was a natural way that for humans to behave the way he describes here in the second part, yeah, maybe we're getting strung up too much on this nature thing, but like, is that a natural thing to put yourself outside yourself, or to put yourself at the back? Maybe for some people it is, I don't know.
Okay. Any other further questions about this passage? Skylar, you said you have many questions. Lots of questions.
I mean, I think we can go on. I just find it a very interesting passage.
So then the 8th chapter.
Okay. Do you want me to read again?
Yes, please.
If nobody else wants to read, I'll read it. Okay. The highest good is like water. Water brings good to all things and does not contend. It goes to places which most people detest and is therefore akin to Tao. Dwell on good ground, meditate in good depth, keep good company, speak in good faith, rule with good policy, serve with good competence, act with good timing. Because there is no contention, there is no blame.
Any question?
I haven't got a question, but I mean, you could probably imagine the first thing I thought of when I read this was the Hong Kong movement. I didn't know if this is where they got the idea from, to be like water.
What movement?
The Hong Kong protest movement.
Oh, okay.
Because then didn't they use like a phrase like to be like water?
Isn't that from Bruce Lee?
I don't know, but it could be. Where did Bruce Lee get it from then? But no, I just wanted to, just say as soon as I read this, I thought of that. But whether I sort of like if that's where they got it from, I've no idea.
Yeah, so where's your question?
Well, it wasn't a question. I just made the point that wasn't a question. That was just
Okay.
comment.
Okay.
Yeah, I just said that's the first thing I thought of. That's all. But I'm just curious to know if this is where it was a Taoist idea they got it from, or somewhere else. Yeah, maybe that was the question. Did they get it from here?
I cannot
I mean,
answer
is
that
it
question for
No, it'd be interesting. Maybe I should look it up. Yeah.
Yeah. And
is it
any
in
other
the
questions?
I don't think it's in the commentary in Wu's translation, but in the Chen Guying commentary, I think the comment is made that Kongzi and Mengzi also use water as like an ethical image, which would be an argument for it being a little bit older than Laozi.
Okay, so I can also introduce a little bit. Thanks for mentioning that. So first, Chen Guyin is the most famous scholar for modern scholar for Laozi. So if you have time, you can also read something. I'll read his commentary. I have that one in Chinese, and also read that very good. And the second is water in China is somehow a interesting symbol, and Mengzi and the Kongzi also discussed this a lot, and here Laozi also. And when we read that, of course, we cannot forget Thales, right? So I think that Chen Guyin also writes that. So if you cannot, as a reader of here, at least as a Chinese, then you just think of Thales and how the ancient Greeks view water, and the basic differences, like Laozi see it also as ethical, and Mengzi and Kongzi a little bit different. Kongzi is just he kind of like think these smart people are like they are loving water because water is like fluent and always flows, and also he had something like when he was on the riverside, and he just said the time is just like how the water flows, something, just to give some metaphors. And yeah, so he kind of like give the ethical image of to the first is interestingly wisdom, or something like the to water, and the second one is Vergänglichkeit. How to say that in English?
Is it like transience? I'm not
Yeah.
sure.
And for Mengzi, it's kind of like he gives some metaphors, like if you look at the
Yeah.
huge the sea, if you were at the sea, so usually then for you those other waters are too small, kind of like use a lot, and so on and so forth. But then here what Laozi is doing is just he compare water as to the highest good.
Because the commentary makes this point about
and he also
sorry. I was going to say shan is repeated all again and again. Yeah.
And so here he also gives some explanation why water should be like viewed as the highest good, right? It's because brings good to all things and does not contain. It goes to places which most people detest. So he give a reason to that, and then kind of like say a lot of good.
Yes.
Yeah. But I think I made a long speech, but did not explain the stuff, but rather brought more confusion, I think. Anyway, sorry.
Wait, what? Like over here, Laozi is praising water because it brings good to all things and does not contend. So like it seems like this does not contend is the main trait that he's praising. What was the trait that Mengzi was praising about water? I don't really remember.
I remember he's talking about the problem of whether human nature is fundamentally good or bad, and he
Yeah.
says that human nature will go towards benevolence, like water will go downhill.
Exactly. And here, it goes to places which most people detest. So which places are these?
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
Any answers? And I think that's I read something like just the lower place, right? So everybody wants to go somewhere higher, so water goes to lower places. Moist, dirty sometimes. Yeah, and any other stuff. I think that's kind of like this, right? Unclear. Or somewhere sometimes also clear. Don't know. So basically, Laozi kind of like point out also the old thing, just what you held, what you hold for good is bad. So you usually think higher place better, and as I told you, that's lower better. For example, that water. You think like bright places are better, but water usually goes to even dark. Yes, right. And so on and so forth, maybe. And here, he used like water, right? And therefore akin to Dao. That's also interesting for me. Just so maybe why he says that, why he does not say the highest good is water, or is therefore the Tao or something like that.
Yeah, because in the second paragraph of the commentary, it talks about symbolism. So maybe this is why it's like water, like because in the second sentence of this second paragraph, like the valley, it is one of the most poignant symbols of humility. So like the highest good is compared to water rather than saying it is water, because like you said, I guess he'd say, well, the highest good is the Tao, but it's akin to the Tao. So it's kind of giving us a symbol of the Tao, maybe.
I read one, I think that's maybe 1B's explanation. He says only akin to, or it's like it's because water still is, so he's being, he has been, but Tao is rather non-being. So that's why he can only give these pictures. But still, this Tao is higher than this because Tao is rather non-being.
Because maybe it's like we cannot grasp that idea of non-being, so we need a manifestation. And in other words, a symbol.
Yeah.
Don't know if I'm following that right.
Yeah. And I also think, what's the relationship between the middle passage and the other two? I think the first and the third is simple, right? We can find out their relationships quite simple. But why is the second passage in the middle?
Yeah, I also found it fun.
Sorry, Karen.
Yeah, that he gives some sort of like advice on what to do, and then he says, because there is no contention. So it seems like, how am I supposed to execute all these suggestions if I don't sort of, have any contention?
Because I would say that maybe if he left that middle bit out, I'd be inclined to say, so what? Like, okay, water is like the Tao. Okay, good. Let's move on then. How does that affect me? I guess I don't know if I'm interpreting this correctly, but the bit in the middle is to try to let you know how you should act. But yeah, it's quite interesting, the idea that doing all that stuff without the possibility of contention is an interesting idea.
I'm thinking like maybe he said 上善若水, which means the highest good is like water. And so we should take water as an example, right? In the human affairs listed in the seven stanzas in the middle, right? So if you want to find a flat, say, or somewhere you deal, and then you should find some good place. How? And then the lower the better. So go to the caves and the bunker.
I'm not living in the right place then. I'm on a hill.
That's a joke. And then so your heart should be like I like a pond, especially here. This yuan usually like or meditate in good depths. It's just Xin is the mind, right? These three characters here is mind, good, and pond. Pond, which pond is just this pond between that underneath a huge waterfall. That's is yuan. So those stuff usually very clean and very deep, and usually also have green color, right? A green, and so on and so forth. So he kind of like say here. I think here the first one is a little bit difficult. So if you want to girl, like what water usually choose, then that which would be the lowest place. That's for me is a little bit difficult. The second one is makes sense for me. So your mind should be like this water pond.
Is
Which-
there some idea of purity there? Because
Did it?
all is
Sorry?
it says meditate in good depth, but I just wondered the way you described this last character, was it you? I can't remember how you said it's pronounced, but is there some idea of purity there? Because you
Yeah.
said it's like behind and it's green.
No. So,
No.
or that depends on the interpretation.
Yeah.
Anyway, clarity, depths,
Oh yeah.
or maybe
Clarity.
Laozi,
Okay.
the word he will use is then darkness, even because if you go to this very deep water pond and waterfall, right, it could be very, very deep. So then it can also be dark. And this third, then 与善人 means in fact with or like keep company with, or also can means give. I think I would translate it more than give, because water, he says also, water brings good to all things, right? So maybe here rather like give good benevolence, something like that. Yeah. Which also makes sense, but the later passage for me then go very far away from water, because in speech and faithfulness, what can that do with water? Any thoughts about on this?
Is it to do with being consistent? Like water keeps good faith in the sense that, yeah, it does the same thing all the time and it's always there. I don't know. You can trust it. You can trust it. Yeah, because this idea of the Chinese sin is to do with trusting as well, isn't it?
Yeah, sure. Faithfulness.
Mm.
And also then about the rule and the policy, governance. What does that have something to do with water? And this is the other passages, like serve good competence. Here it's the first is what's the same question? What's the relationship in water? And as for me, it's also a contradiction to the passage. I think the third, right? Yes, the third begins with do not glorify the talented, so the common people were not content. But here he says serve with good competence. It's also same to me, for me, like just cannot go along with each other.
Is competence the same as talent, though? I don't know. I haven't looked at what the original Chinese said in number 3, but
they are slightly different, but very,
Mm.
very closely related. So one's 上贤, 贤, in fact, in Chinese, 举贤, 语能, basically they are like synonyms.
yeah,
Mm.
because Nung has
贤能,
got to do with ability,
Yeah.
hasn't it? Yeah.
Yes, and the meritocracy translated into Chinese is also 贤能正直. So those two words. Yeah.
Mm.
And other people, how about the other people? Do you have any comments of what I just said? Basically, the relationship between the 1 and 3, the first and third passage and the second passage.
Yeah, I don't know, maybe I'm oversimplifying, but it seems easier to understand it if you just think about these 7 qualities in terms of the descriptions of water rather than like in terms of water itself. Or like if I try to think about how keeping good company is like water, that's confusing. But if I think about how keeping good company is like bringing good to something, then that makes a little bit more sense. But I don't know if that's an oversimplification.
Mm. I think it's a good way. So those 8 stuff are like good qualities of water. Yeah. Mm.
And also maybe that the way that you do these things should be the way water is. So like I'm not really sure how you apply all of this stuff without any contention, but the last one seems to me to be quite a good example for that, because like if you act with good timing is you don't force an issue, but you wait for like the best moment, and then you with the least amount of effort you can achieve some stuff. So
Go with the flow.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe there could be some analogous way that you could achieve all of those things above without contending too much as well.
Any other questions or comments about chapter 8? No, so then we go to chapter 9. Ross, would you like to read it?
Sure. Holding a cup while filling it to the brim is not as good as stopping then and there. Hammering the blade till it is sharp cannot keep it for so long. Stuffing the hole with gold and jade does not guarantee it will stay secure. Turning arrogant after gaining wealth and position brings disaster upon oneself. Retire after achieving one's goals. That is the Tao of heaven.
Any question, comment? This passage is for me rather straightforward, right? As others rather simple to understand. It's maybe just say like George Washington. So did something and then retired.
Quit while you're ahead.
Hmm?
We say quit while you're ahead.
Yeah. Quit while you are ahead.
That's it. Yeah.
Oh.
That's a saying in English. Yeah.
Good summary, I would say.
But that's a saying in English.
Yeah. Yeah. If no comments, so we go to the 10, chapter 10. Oh, this one is difficult. I would say, I think whether we can finish it in 20 minutes or so question.
Should I read?
Yeah,
Oh.
please.
Embracing the one with both your spirit and soul, can you stay seamless? Focusing your chi until you reach suppleness, can you be like an infant? Wiping your mystery mirror clean, can you make sure it remains unblemished? Caring for your people and governing your state, can you apply non-doing? Letting your portals open and shut, can you maintain your femininity? Keeping all four directions free and clear, can you remain unknowing?
I have a question about the second last line. This 明白四达. Does the 明白 at this time have the meaning of like understanding, or does it just mean clear?
Clear and white, right?
But like in modern, I think the point that's being made here is in modern Chinese, you say 明白吗? 明白, like it's to do with understanding.
And this is a very good question, I would say. The first, I'm not an ancient, like a philologist, but I think rather not. So it's rather modern Chinese, but they have such a like a close relationship, right? You can feel. And in Zhuang's, in his most difficult second chapter, he kind of less mean, which is, I don't know, clarity or something like that. It's his kind of highest category or something like that. And so I think this very important for Taoists. Don't know in how far I answered your question, but that's all I know. Any other questions?
I have another one about the second sentence. What does it mean? Can you stay seamless? Like the Chinese word is li, right? Like, what does that mean?
Li is separate or leave, right? Basically leave. So shy down or distinction or just like so get away from each other or cut
Distance,
to
yeah.
peace with each other or something like that. So Wuli is kind of think no the separation or no distance. Yeah.
So it means something like you're supposed to blend yourself into the one, something like that. Is it?
Yeah, that's because in the first stanza that's that, right? 报宜 embracing the one.
Yeah, they explained a bit about this in the commentary about this yin and po, is it? Yeah, soul and spirit or something. It says in the second paragraph of the commentary what that's all about.
Here's also a very good question. So I read different comments. They also give different explanation of what is yin and po. So basically, this yin means mass, generally, because mass is something or a star which is very often red and very difficult to figure out its way, how to say, its root.
Orbit?
So it's its orbit or something like that. It's very, very difficult. So somehow it has something, this word also then here just to be used as part of the psyche, but at that time, the psyche seems to have two parts. And one part translated to spirit for this Charles, so which can exist independently from the body, whereas the latter, which I translate as the soul, stays with the body. That's his understanding. And some also translated the first as intellectual, and the other as like, I don't know, perceptive or something like that. So it's just like here we have something in this like are very controversial and basically about the old ancient Chinese way of understanding psyche. And I also don't know how to do that because this subject is so difficult, and we need a lot of like some long treatise, right? But usually we only have 2 characters. How can I begin with that?
That's Chinese for you.
Exactly. But it's also a good question. I also don't know an answer. And I'm also very interested in it.
Because when you talk about psyche, are we going into the realms of psychology there then?
Yeah, sure.
Maybe rather than philosophy. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But here I have this strong feeling. This whole passage seems to more about meditation. So the most strongest is the second sentence, right? Focus on your qi till you reach suppleness. So this one is really. So if you concentrating on your breath or those stuff, but when you're meditating, and the third part also can also work with that way, right? About this mystery mirror, very mysterious. And also the heavenly portals or heavenly gates.
Yeah, didn't this have something to do with female organs as well? I seem to remember reading in the commentary. I don't know.
Yeah, definitely. But anyway, this passage is very difficult for me. Any further questions?
I mean, the final line is totally flummoxing to me. Or it just doesn't seem like unknowingness has been held up as a goal so far. And so this feels like a new step. I also saw that in other textual traditions, it's not acting rather than not knowing, which to me makes more sense, but apparently the whole commentary tradition thinks unknowing makes more sense.
Didn't we have some?
Yeah. Sorry.
No, I was going to ask on that point. Didn't we have something like that last week? Because like keeping the people in ignorance or something, something like this. We had last week, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he makes an interesting point at the end here. Like I think it's the last paragraph of the commentary, that it's like the unknowing is not filling your head with tittle tattle by the look of it, because it says remaining unknowing means refusing to have one's mind clogged with mundane information. Only this way can you keep your mind free and clear in all directions.
Yeah, that seems like a compromise. Or it just seems like this is a very radical sentence, and that seems like a way of sort of softening
maybe
the blow.
But it's if you look at you know, today's China, like, you know, again, like because what was mentioned last week about the Great Firewall and things like that, keeping people in ignorance about what the rest of the world is saying. On the other hand, yeah, they have another tactic to clog people's minds through WeChat with all sorts of content, a lot of which is just useless. But it's true, isn't it? I mean, it happens to us as well. We get fed through social media with rubbish, you know. We have to be pretty selective, you know, like what's being fed to us, you know. Is it worth looking at? Is it worth having in our heads or not? Yeah.
You're going too far, and also
no, I'm
much.
only picking up. No, but I'm picking up on this point here. I mean, you know, that in the commentary. I mean, if people disagree with me, please say so. But I'm just saying, is that what he's talking about, or is that what he's trying to say here?
So let Skylar first explain more about his position, right? Okay, just let him finish what he.
Oh, sure. I'm sorry, I didn't realize that. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
No, I don't feel cut off. That seems like a
yeah. And here, I think basically the relationship between understanding and knowledge, right? Mean by is keep all four directions free and clear here. And like Aiden says, usually the modern Chinese, this word means just understand. And so what is Laozi's view about knowledge? And that's also what we said last time. So I said I was unprepared for this, and what's Laozi say epistemology, if we are allowed to use that term. And last weekend, I read through Laozi as a whole and focused on all the places he mentioned this word 知 or know or knowledge. Wow, that's also a lot of places, but which seems to me this subject, like for all the philosophers, is very important for him, and he also has some very interesting ideas about it. But unfortunately, he does not like Greek philosophers. He didn't try to explain what is knowledge or something like that in that way. So his position is not straightforward, clear. That's unfortunate, Skylar.
So he's not keeping his all four directions free and clear for us.
Yeah. And here, basically, then we say if we want to understand this sentence, right, then it would be great if we know more about how Laozi understands 知 or knowledge, right, or unknowing, knowing, and also free and clear. So, and why it's keeping all four direction free and clear? Can you remain unknowing? Why you say something like that? But unfortunately, at least for me, it's not enough material to reconstruct something like this in a reasonable way. Or basically, I think for me, the problem is I was influenced too much by Western epistemology. So I always think that way. I think he must say something like that. And of course, he was making some statements about that, but somehow difficult for me to follow him.
Skylar, you mentioned at the beginning of your question something regarding non-action.
Yeah, I think there are just there's one textual tradition where it's just Wu Wei instead of Wu Zhi.
Oh,
Yeah,
But
I remember that.
none of the big commentators like that. Like everyone likes Wu Zhi.
but it feels like there should also then be a connection between Wu Wei and Wu Zi, right? Like the way that you would have this effortless non-action kind of thing would seem to have a lot to do with like having a certain kind of like non-knowledge as well. Because if you would have knowledge, then it would be some sort of like intentional action.
You're coming to this philosophy of language.
Yeah, I mean, I guess in my head, I just sort of made a compromise, or like for some reason, I don't know why, I don't want Lao Tzu to be like skeptical about the value of knowledge. Like that just seems too sort of paradoxical a thing for a philosopher to pursue, and so I've just been making this compromise in my head of like you actually do need knowledge in order to achieve Wu Wei. Like Wu Wei has to be guided by a sort of knowledge of what is, and stuff like this. But I mean, I don't know. Maybe the more radical reading is more true to the text.
So basically, I think here people like Charles interprets like say remaining unknowing means refusing to have one's mind clogged with mundane or mundane information. Mundane information. Only this way can you keep your mind free and clear in all directions. And some other also interpreted that into do not pretend to know those stuff you don't know, right? That's also a way. So anyway, those are, I would say, simple interpretations. But Skylar, your concern, and I would think that what Lao Tzu rather want to say is he kind of like really criticize knowledge in general, right? That's maybe what we have in mind. So if like the interpretation I just mentioned, the two interpretation, we all will agree, but does not seem to be what Lao Tzu is saying. Any questions, comments for chapter 10? And so how about the infant here? What do you understand, infant? Like focus your chi till you reach suppleness. Can you be like an infant?
Maybe I can elaborate on that because it's closely with the Qigong stuff also. So a baby has usually a very soft skin and can move very, very well. The older we get, the harder it is to move. Like if you just thinking of my grandma who's nearly 92, she can hardly move on her own anymore. So basically, doing a lot of movements and meditations, you reach a stage of softness and suppleness is the word here. So I think that's the thing. You can do this with movements, with meditations, traditional Chinese medicine, and similar stuff.
And so what does here focusing your qi until you till such softness? What does
Yeah.
that mean?
Yeah, because the Qigong movements, it's not just moving on the outside, it's also moving Qi on the inside with a focus on breathing, on sometimes even little breaks in the breathing and the movement. So there's a sense of arriving and coming home. And here, this is the for me, that refers directly to that. Like it's a one-on-one what we are doing in the Qigong classes with my teacher. And also the mirror thing is like looking on the inside. So everybody has some dark spots on the inside, on their mind, soul, thoughts, whatever. And with the right meditation and stuff, you start to get cleaner and easier and things get simpler.
Yeah, thanks. I think here really, for me, I don't know much about Qigong or meditation, but even for me, this passage can be, at least can be interpreted for that purpose very well.
Yeah, maybe you should join me in one of the trips.
That's true. And basically, he later also have the passage. I cannot find it directly about what you said about the infant. The first point is like they are soft, and Laozi say, when you are born, you are soft, and when you are dead, you are hard.
Yeah, like just look at a baby. They don't have a problem to put their toe in the mouth. How many of us can still do this? I know the body proportions of a baby are far different from an adult. That's very true, but nonetheless, they can do things with their body we can't. And even if you think an 18-year-old and an 80-year-old, this is completely different how they move, how much softness and flexibility there is in a body. And basically, it also refers to the concept of fluidity and being liquid and all that sort of stuff we had in the first or second chapter. So this is just another cue on that part as well.
Yeah. And also I read some other interpretation, not only understand infants as soft bodies, but also something like, okay, so for an infant, their heart or internally, they don't have any concerns.
Exactly.
Yes, and externally, they don't have any business to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Food and food is a maker's, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Food being clean in some company, and then all is good.
Yeah. Food and poo.
In company.
But that's their parents' concern.
Let's not worry about money and all those sort of things.
Yeah, I get that, but like, yeah, I mean that's it. Like, because I obviously just had my grandchild, as you know, it's like, oh, as long as they got food and sleep, that's it. It's kind of like there's nothing else needed.
But also the joyfulness, the playfulness of a child.
Yeah. And
because
also,
this is something we also lose.
yeah, that's also. And another comment says, I think, interestingly, is that the infants don't have desire.
No, that's right.
Hmm.
I mean, food and stuff, but that's
Yeah,
exclusive
for
to
milk.
every human being.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the psychoanalytic tradition would disagree with you.
Oh yes, Freud. It all
Sigmund.
goes back to yeah. My gosh.
Exactly. So I also think this commentator also he was very ancient. Otherwise he need to read some Freud.
I'm wondering if we don't want to start next time by reading chapter 55. I was just looking at it. I think Charles Wu quotes it. It's all about the infant, and it's also about knowledge. So I don't usually like to sort of jump around in a text, but I think it could help us maybe pursue some questions about infants and the value of knowledge.
We can begin with that 55. Yeah, sure. And then also, then we jump back to 11. First 55. It's good one. Yeah. I think today we just stop here. It's
Yeah.
also the time and it's slightly longer than usual.
Yeah, we've done a bit of overtime today.
Yeah. Good discussion. And then see you next time.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. See you.
Bye then. See
Bye.
you. Bye-bye. Bye.